Okay. Truxtun Talks 2 with Alex Dolan, who is now getting his MBA at Chicago Booth. He graduated from West Point in 2020. Alex, I'll let you take it away. Introduce yourself, say whatever.
Cool. Well, yeah, first, thanks for having me on here. I'm pretty stoked that I get to say I was on the second ever episode of Truxtun Talks. And yeah, I mean, as y'all know, we've talked plenty. Incredibly grateful for Truxtun, for plant medicine, for kind of everything and everybody that Truxtun's brought into my life. And I mean, it's really only been like the better part of 2 months. But yeah, I mean, my life kind of broadly up to this point, I guess, is kind of describe it as this living in this small world. I'm from rural Midwest, really small town in Ohio. Kind of always grew up in a world that felt really small to me. I was raised in a single mother household or single parent household. Um, and despite that, had a really, really awesome childhood and kind of was always interested in military service and at the same time always kind of knew pretty early on that I wanted a lot more than what my world was offering me during my childhood. And so the army and West Point were kind of my way out. I'd never even seen mountains until I got onto campus in 2016. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, I mean, from there, just really maximized kind of finding adventure, trying new things, really taking ownership of who I was, who I wanted to be. Um, and then was stationed at Fort Bragg for about 3.5 years, did some time at all the various schools at Fort Benning, Georgia before that, and then decided it was time to kind of move on to new pastures and did the MBA thing that so many junior officers are doing now, and then was really, really blessed to end up at Chicago Booth, and, yeah, now I'm here.
That's sick. We were just talking about how it gets cold in Chicago and how you're hunkering down but it's been a good experience with grad school.
Um, you broke up a little bit there. You said it's kind of been cold and I'm hunkering down, but you're asking if it's been a good experience?
Yeah, yeah, you'd say like overall your experience with grad school's been pretty cool so far.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. It's it's been a little bit interesting. I mean, I guess I kind of did my homework. I watched y'all's episode with Amos, I think like yesterday or 2 days ago, and this is, I think, very much a commonality that a lot of people in similar spaces that have come to Truxton have kind of mentioned is it you step into that space and it feels really transactional and it's super career oriented and it's so much of it is like, okay, you're here, go on this best laid path. And it's definitely been challenging to like not go in that kind of typical mold when that's just not what I want. Um, hasn't made it any better or worse necessarily in terms of kind of the day-to-day experience. Have met super awesome people along the way, so far, and I mean, it's only been, like, the better part of 4 months. But yeah, it's been super great. It's just exciting to be out of the army, and I'm incredibly grateful for that time. I mean, West Point in the Army gave me absolutely everything, and I had a blast while I was at it. But to like kind of just leave the Army, and it's like, all right, man, it's you and your life now. There's a lot of excitement in that uncertainty.
Yeah.
Really close to that, right? You just got out over the summer,
I got out. I don't remember the exact date anymore, but I got out in late August of 25. Um,
and then you went right into Booth like weeks later.
it was like a month later. Um,
That's nuts.
so I mean, it was definitely like there wasn't a lot of error, like room for logistical error in there. So, I mean, my now fiance and she lived in Durham at the time in North Carolina. I was in Fayetteville. She had lived with me for like, I mean, her lease ended like at the end of the July, and at the end of July, she moved down with me, but she still had some travel on the books. And I mean, we left in late August. Like the day that I got out of the army is the day that I left North Carolina. And made some stops along the way, which was really awesome to catch up with a few people in our life. And then I got to Chicago, moved in, had like I don't know, like 3 weeks to settle in for orientation, and then that was it. And kind of just like jumped on that new hamster wheel, as lots of people like to put it.
That's sick. And how did you hear about Truxtun?
Through Booth, actually. Not officially like by the school, I should say. But it was through the Veterans Club here. There was a member of the Veterans Club. She went on the Woodstock retreat. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the Woodstock retreat, that was the one right before Colorado retreat. I had always been like very, very psychedelics and plant medicine curious, even while I was in, but like I was in the army, you can't do that stuff.
Yeah.
And so like just kind of at my base level, I was very curious about exploring that. And she dropped it in one of the various channels that like all the clubs have. I I think I just went to the website, filled out an application. CJ, you and I talked the next day, I think. Um, we talked for a while. Like I want to say somewhere over an hour. I don't remember super specifically.
It was like the Spider-Man meme. You know, you're like, "Wait, you went through that when you were getting out of the military?" It's like, "Dude, I went through that when I was getting." Oh my god, we're like the same people, kind of. Yeah,
It definitely was. Yeah. I mean, and it instantly clicked in this like desire for correct, like I would be curious your view on it, but in my mind we kind of share this desire to be like authentic to who we are as people,
Mm.
for our actions in the world to be consistent like with who we really are. um and to like I can be a little bit of a contrarian, so like that a lot of the time can animate what I choose to do. But yeah, like just being ourselves. And talking about like how that can be really challenging when you go into any like highfalutin business school. Um, and then I think that was kind of the first thing that really clicked. And then I think the second thing that clicked was the confirmation of like, hey, this programming, like what we do is it's not like dancing around at a Grateful Dead concert. Um, I know CJ is a big Grateful Dead fan. So nothing wrong with that. But he was like, that is not like what we're here to do. Like it's intentional. Um, I remember you describe it as like pretty similar to going to the gym, and that really resonated with me. And I think from that point, it was like, all right, I'm in. And there was enough time like to do all the pre-retreat stuff, but it was like, okay, like signed up, you're good to go, but it's like you have 2 weeks. And yeah, that was kind of like how the initial connection was made.
I love it. Did you have any thoughts or what was running through your head when you flew to Colorado? Like, were you anxious at all, or just kind of curious about what would go down? Like, where was your head at as you were coming into the retreat?
For sure anxious. Yeah, I think definitely anxious just because like something that I have always definitely struggled with is like giving up any sort of like control over the world around me. And I think up to that point I'd done a lot of work on not feeling that urge to control the world around me and like feeling that emotion, letting it pass, and then like just moving forward. I think when you're stepping into the world of psychedelics, it's a completely new level of being okay with not being in control. Because I mean, fundamentally, you are stepping into something where, all right, like your consciousness, your thoughts, like it's in the hands of the medicine now. Um, so like definitely, like I would almost describe it as like my anxious curious ratio leading up to the retreat. And I mean, so right, like flying there, definitely more curious than anxious. Get there, I don't know, like 50-50. Um, and then ceremony approaches, and then I mean, by the time ceremony comes, like I was insanely nervous. Like there's no
Yeah,
denying. I was a nervous wreck. I'm sure y'all both saw it. Um, and like I was definitely okay with that, but like there's just nothing you can do about that nervousness. Like you kind of just have to saddle up and do it anyway.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, I think one thing I would say that was really awesome is that whole time, like there's there's not a lot you can do if somebody is nervous. Like that's just what it is. But the peer support, the facilitator support, the whole time, um, definitely got me to the point where yes, I was nervous, but I was also okay in that. Um, and I mean, I remember when Will mentioned this. I mean, at the ceremony, he was like, "Hey, like, laid out some ground rules, and that said, like, don't worry, no matter what, like, we've got you, the universe has got you, and you are held." Um, and that phrase, "you are held," just really, really resonated with me. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, I mean, it is such a good teacher of giving up control. Um, And yeah, that was kind of like I guess the play by play of leading up to ceremony.
so cool.
Yeah, it's hard for guys like us to give up control, to release the grip on the wheel that we have so tight. It's the hardest thing. I think that's what, like, in some ways leads us to this work and, like, leads us to feeling the way we feel sometimes. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, getting out of the military and then going immediately because I had, like, 6 months between military and Wharton starting, but, like, 3 weeks before, my ETS date to starting business school, like, that's a lot, dude. So you're, like, bottling up, the uniform comes off, but, like, that's about it, right? And dealing with that first semester while, like, trying to fit in and talk to your classmates about what's going on internally, like, that's gotta be really, really challenging. And then being able to, like, take this leap of faith into literally the unknown, get on a plane and drive into the or, fly into the mystery literally is, I mean, props, man. That it takes a lot of courage, a lot of courage. But now, hopefully you know what we're talking about now when we say this stuff because it's hard to explain to people, what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean that I'm glad you said that. Thank you for all that. Um, and I think it like a really key part of it is like you sort of mentioned, just like this breakneck speed of like the next thing. And so many people who find Truxtun or who find plant medicine in the veteran community, there is kind of this notorious, like, there's a gap between like how things look on paper versus how things look in actuality. Um, and to kind of trace a little bit deeper into the story. So, I mean, I decided I was going to get out in late 23. Um, Basically, that was like 14, 15 months worth of work, just like nose to the grindstone, doing the army thing at the same time. Finally renders out, I'll call it like by April of 25. And I mean, at that point, my fiance Emma had been in my life for quite a while, for over a year at that point. And right, so like I've got this amazing partner, like holy moly, like I did the thing. Um, and like, I mean, that year, to be honest with you, and those like last 6 months of the army were idyllic. And it's one of those who know things, that like last 6 months of the army, if you have reasonable unit leadership, it's pretty dang chill. So, right, like I get to bask in the glory of like this accomplishment that I set out to do so long ago. I'm just enjoying so much of life. Like it's the spring and the summer. And that time in June, we went on a trip to Alaska. In July, we went on a trip to Peru. We came back in late July. I had like 3 weeks in the army at that point. Like things are ramping up, but things are still really great. Moving, of course, like moving sucks no matter who you are or where you are. But again, like we're doing the thing. We get to Chicago. That was like, I mean, that was early September. I start orientation literally the last Friday of orientation. Emma and I got engaged. That was super amazing. The week after, I throw this surprise engagement party with like 30 of our like closest, dearest friends. Like, life rocks, man. But on the other side of that, and kind of like beneath the surface, I didn't necessarily feel like I was struggling a whole lot. Like I wouldn't say I was in crisis. Um, but like my now fiance Emma was definitely having a hard time adjusting, and it was something. I mean, it was a heck of a blind spot because I am in this new space. I have so many things going on. I feel like, holy crap, like I'm at the University of Chicago. Like I can't waste my shot. Like this is a big deal. I have 2 years. Like I've come so far from this. Like I see how I grew up. I'm never going back to that. I can't mess this up. And looking back on it now, I was so incredibly task oriented, and like more task oriented than I'd ever been when I was in the army at any point ever. To the point where like I was becoming like an automaton and a robot. I like no longer was showing up like as a partner for Emma in the way in which like she deserved and was used to and had experienced all the time that we'd known each other. Um, and then I think internally, I mean, I remember just such an inability to be present wherever I was. Um, like I could have been having a really, really good conversation with y'all right now. And like 45, 50% of my mind would have been on like, yo, like, what do I have to do next? What do I have to do
Yeah.
next? What's next? What's tomorrow? What's next week? Um, and like even worse is like I felt like I was like kind of failing at the like adjustment thing of like, hey, I'm in business school now. I have to make all these friends. I have to like do the right things to get the fancy job to come along with a fancy degree. And like that is just something that I wasn't aware of, but like ironically, as soon as I signed up to go to Truxtun, like all of this stuff started to come to the surface and just more and more and more.
Yeah. We always say, like, the second you RSVP yes, the medicine starts to work on you, like, subconsciously
Okay.
or, like, at a quantum level, like, the downloads of information that the universe is trying to tell you is, like, starting to come through, whether it's through your
It's a real
dreams,
thing.
just through, like, conversations and people that you meet, but, and, I mean, synchronicities will happen, right? Like, I was just thinking when you said, that you were like a taskmaster and so like it whatever on the clock and then at the equine therapy thing on day 1 in Colorado
Dude.
you pick a clock out of the bin?
Yep.
You want to share kind of like about that a little bit? And I'd be
Mm.
curious too, because that was the first time we'd done equine therapy on a Truxtun retreat. Like, do you think that was useful? Like, did it set up your ceremony the next day to be different for the better? Like, yeah.
Um, that was definitely it's a lot funnier with like a little bit of hindsight. Um, that was definitely the moment of like, yo, man, this shit's real. Um, because that was the first full day. Like we wake up early, it's equine therapy. Like I'd never been around horses, but I was very much like I wasn't necessarily anticipating everything, but like if somebody asked me like, "Hey, what do you expect this day to look like?" I expected it to look like we like hang out with some horses and we like walk around with them. Like I don't know, maybe we get on them. We didn't. Um, and the like kind of lesson to take away is like, oh, see, isn't it so nice to like be connected to another being and like to have that shared trust. Now what happened? um, it was like, and it was definitely like pretty chill. I mean, I would say like the first 2/3 of it. Um, and then we did I remember brought them into like a smaller arena. And then I was like, hey, like choose the horse that you kind of hung out with the most throughout the session. And then like pick an item, put it down, and just see what happens. And at first I was like, I don't really know what to pick, man. Like nothing's really like resonating with me. I see the clock and I was like, time, like I'm super like we got to be on task lately. I don't know, maybe there's something there. I put it down. The horse that I chose, like I remember kind of trying to bring it to the clock. Um, and then I see it look at the clock and then like look at me, and it didn't like totally put its head into me, but definitely was like, hey, like I see it, but we're here right now. And then like the waterworks just started. And like anybody who knows me well knows I'm a pretty emotional dude. But that was like super out of nowhere. Um, and I think that was definitely not I think I know that was definitely kind of that first look at what I'd been missing for, I mean, I would say the better part of like 2.5, 3 months. Um, and yeah, I think kind of stepping out of that experience and just what I really learned and received from that was like, hey, you have this really important person in your life that you just agreed to do life with for as long as you both live. Like like business school, like finding your job, like doing the rat race, like like sure do that. Um, but like that's not what makes life worth living. Um, and yeah, I mean that was such an amazing primer for ceremony the next day. And I mean that was I mean, I don't really know if my experience with it had a central theme. But if there was a central theme of ceremony, like it was definitely that. And that definitely came up in a much more like beautiful, nurturing, loving way during ceremony.
It's so cool, man.
Thank you.
Great props to you for doing that. And everybody that did it like had some pretty profound takeaways from their experience with the horses. So it's a great call on that. I think that's like something that like try to do on as many retreats as we can. Yeah, because it was powerful. Okay. So then and then, like, yeah, what was your experience like with the medicine and with laying there? I kind of remember, towards the end, you were feeling a little bit nauseous, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. But otherwise, like, pretty powerful takeaway for you?
Yes. Um, to avoid like getting super play by play with it, it was definitely like the first third was very much like I mean, and to kind of put it up front, it was challenging overall. Um, and I didn't really have any expectations stepping into it, but it was certainly challenging. It was not this kind of easy la la experience. Not to say it was bad, it was still incredible. But super challenging at that. Um, the first third had a lot, I mean, everything to do with. So I mean, I grew up in a single parent household because my late dad passed away when I was 3 years old. And so that yeah, that first third was the plant medicine allowed me to understand like what that loss actually meant because all my life I had conceived of my dad passing away so early in my life. It's like it's an absence. It's not a loss because I just turned 3. Like I didn't really have much consciousness formed, definitely no memories formed up to that point. And so, I mean, really all of my life, I mean, the way that I processed that I like grieved that at various points was, yeah, it's an absence. Like that was the central challenge of my life is growing up and becoming who I am, um, in the midst of that absence. And I think kind of the amazing thing about the plant medicine was that it allowed me to access that part of myself that actually felt that loss for the first time ever. Um, and then past that, it resolved in this way of understanding that everything that had ever been given to me, that I had ever received, was an answer to that. And I mean, most centrally, that so many of the people in my life, and especially my fiance, um, and understanding that, like in every way that, in every like adversity that I had ever faced, like the universe has been nurturing you and taking care of you and holding you in the midst of that. And I think that experience definitely helped me understand and reinforce and almost like find myself again and who I kind of lost touch with very, very quickly in like a
Mm.
2-month period. Um, yeah, so much of it was just like reuniting with like who I really am to the core. Um,
Cool.
yeah, and I think kind of secondarily to that, I mean, just I find so much in my daily life that I am able to pause and just appreciate like whatever is out in front of me. Um, and I mean, just the other day, like walking back from class, there's a big bell tower, and I walk past this couple, and one of them is blind, and the bell tower's going, and the person who can see is describing to her blind friend, like, "Oh my gosh, like there's this big bell tower. It's beautiful." And to just walk past that and like see kind of this awe that two people are experiencing two different ways was just such a beautiful thing. Um, to be able to receive that, and then I think more practically, just having that experience definitely gave me the tools for when life does life stuff and it's tough, um, to really step back into that space of like, wow, look at all this stuff that look at all these people in my life and the relationships that I'm able to hold and like really lean on those and nurture on those when things are difficult or when conflict arises or whatever it is.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. That's cool about the bell tower. And like the one person experiencing it auditorily only and the other person just visual and both. So it sounds like you walked away from it with like, wow, like this ability to process your childhood in a different lens where you like actually felt the feelings of grieving your dad and then but also that perspective shift of like from a macro, it's like, you almost get pulled out of your body and you're like, hey, look, like no matter what happens, like the universe is like it's scheming for your highest and greatest good. Like, look at all these things. Look at the supporting cast in your life. Look at your family, your friends, your partner. Were you surprised by anything like afterwards, or like maybe something that like you hadn't even written down as an intention, and then like now coming back, you're like, whoa, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, there was definitely a lot that surprised me. Um,
Yeah.
I think I think definitely just the sense of confidence that you
Okay.
get from encountering I mean, in my case, and right, it's different for everybody, but in my case, just encountering who I was to the core, and then also having that encounter relative to just so much perspective that plant medicine allows for. Um, and just stepping outside of that, and we talked kind of briefly about this thread of being in a new place where like there is a lot of herd mentality there, and there is a lot of like, yo, dude, you are a veteran, you were in for 5 years, you need to go be an investment banker or a consultant because that's the safe thing,
Yeah.
and because it's well paying and it's lucrative, and like, I mean, you can do something else, but like this is what everybody else is doing, and that pull is real. uh
Yeah.
Humans are tribal at the end of the day, and to right step into that space when like that's not what you want. And so sure, like I feel like I had the benefit of like I already knew that that's not what I wanted, but there is a heck of a lot of standing alone that you have to do in the midst of that. And then like the other piece of it is like kind of socially standing alone. There are a lot of people coming into this that are like single. They are like, so they're also doing the things that everybody else is doing. Whereas like for me, I'm settling down, just got engaged, trying to figure that out. Um, and I mean, so I think like on one level, practically, it's harder to do that stuff, but also like there is a heck of a lot of like party, like all of the typical business school things of like partying, like 3 nights out of the week at a minimum. And like seeing that and saying, okay, that's not for me. I don't want to do that.
Mm.
And like, great, you made that choice, but like I said, like there's a heck of a lot of standing alone that has to happen. And that requires a heck of a lot of like not only self-awareness, but confidence. And just like this is who I am. And like you can take it or leave it, like still open to forming new relationships, but yeah, I mean it's like a little bit of a fine line to walk. Because then you inevitably like give off the perception that like, oh, like Alex Dolan's kind of standoffish. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I just remember coming back and feeling so much more comfortable in like the standing alone that I had to do in in just being who I am authentically. And I think developing that sort of state of being, I feel like I'm much more easily able to pour into old friendships, new friendships. Like, I feel like I'm a better version of myself. I feel like I'm coming, I feel like I'm approaching life and in general and specifically in this case from a much more abundant place. And I mean the effects of those are both downstream and really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was just imagining, like, I don't know if you remember, like, way back in the day when, teachers had those, like, projector screens where you could layer, like, the clear pieces of, film on top, like,
I
it's like, you have those, like yeah. You have those, like, layers, right? That's society, so, like, you have West Point overlaid on top of Alex. You have Army and your time at Fort Bragg, which is unique and different from other military installations. Then you have grad school, then you have this, then you have all these things, right? And I think that is a huge, like, unrealized benefit of going internally with the medicine is that, like, you strip all the layers off, and, like, somehow in the midst of all that, even with the ego dissolution, like, a lot of times people come back to themselves and they're like, "Oh, this is like from now on, I know what my internal compass is saying." Like, I wasn't really able to find my internal compass before because I was swayed so much by the external things that were layered on. And now I'm like more clear about like who I am, what I want, what I will not tolerate. And it's not like I don't know. It's like, yeah, you don't feel that FOMO of being like, I'm missing out because I'm not drinking and I'm missing out on all these NBA social events. It's like, nah, you're like, actually, I'm good. Like, I'm really happy and I'll put myself out there when I want to, but also like I know my limits and I'm not gonna just drink because, it's the socially acceptable thing to do or get corralled into this new trajectory of like corporate whatever because that's the script that someone handed me. It's like, nah, dude, you're on to something real that's like you and uniquely authentic to you. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I think that like stripping away for me particularly like happened on that emotional level and like understanding,
Mm.
like not understanding like, hey, this is what it was like to grow up as a fatherless child, but like, hey, like this is like it was like I was a scared 3-year old again who
Oh yeah.
I'm 3 years old. Like like by all accounts, I'm helpless. Um, I'm helpless. I couldn't even form memories, was probably like not all that conscious as a human. And then like by the time I am forming memories, it's like, yo, wait, where's my dad? Um, and that I think was like so central in terms of what was stripped away and being able to I don't think it was a going back in time thing. I think it was just something that was always there of yeah, like accessing that fear, that grief, that sadness, and like sitting with that, like really, really sitting with that and like going through that and processing that. Um it makes you feel a heck of a lot lighter. Um And I think there's yeah, I mean, like, so much more emotional authenticity as well associated with being able to, like, strip away all of these, like, kind of emotional layers that had nothing to do with, like, my outer identity. That was also incredibly fulfilling, liberating, tough, challenging at the same time. But yeah, I mean, really, really amazing.
So cool.
And now I'm thinking about this too, and like I hope that this can be like if there's like a 30-second clip to take from this to like help folks who don't know about any of this at all. I think I described this to CJ this way, like before ceremony. So like I've got no clue what I'm getting into still. But it's from like I think I like kind of drew the inspiration from Shawshank Redemption when like the narrator says the main character is a product of pressure and time, much like a rock
Mm,
formation.
yeah,
And a lot like rock formations, like we are products of time, which is obvious, and we're also products of pressure, whether that's pressure the outside world's putting on us, pressure that we're putting on ourselves, just the simple pressures of just like everyday life, that are just inherent in being a human. Um, and yeah, you take time and pressure and like put that on a human, that stuff gets pretty densely packed down. And I mean, in my case, right, it was losing my dad, and that was definitely the big piece. And also lots of other stuff. Um, and what the plant medicine allowed me access to was essentially like taking a cross section of like the rock formation of Alex Dolan and then separating all those layers to this very, very granular level where I can see like, oh, wait, like that's like, I didn't know that like that little striation was there. Like that's kind of interesting. Or like, oh, I knew this was bothering me and like I suspected something was there, but like I didn't see it before. But now that it's like, now that I have a cross section and it's separated and I can see it and I understand it, like this is really great. I have these super awesome tools to like just walk through life moving forward now.
that's so cool. I love that. I love that analogy.
Great analogy.
Yeah, that's rad. So do you feel like it's also kind of interesting with your story because for for a lot of people who have gone through Truxtun so far, it seems like they go after they've completed their graduate school stuff. So it's really cool to hear about yours because you're doing it right at the beginning. And I'm curious, like, what what was it like coming back and like finishing out your semester, going to midterms, going to finals, and now like with this next, summer break approaching when you can do like basically anything as this like top tier MBA student, like where's your head at for the future?
Oh, dude. Um, that's such a good question. And I never even thought about that, to be honest with you. Um, I think, and I can't like I have to credit both my fiance Emma and the plant medicine with this. But to make a long story short, like I am recruiting for like venture investing and startups. That is very, very uphill for somebody with a veteran background. And so like it's really, really difficult. There's a heck of a lot of risk and there's a heck of a lot of uncertainty. I think more than anything, overall, I plant medicine has allowed me to choose to be excited about that uncertainty because at the same time, yeah, like there is an element of uncertainty that's scary. Um, especially like when you're young and you're trying to establish yourself and like there are some stakes. I can tell you right now, I have no clue where I'll be this summer. We have no clue where we're going to live after June of 2027. Um, job hunt is what it is. It's difficult. Still haven't had much success in the grand scheme of things. I think I'm on the right trajectory. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think just practically speaking, I think I'm so much more it's not even whatever emotion I'm feeling. I think that I am so much more able and eager to choose excitement and to like keep at whatever route I'm on and to have faith in the universe and what it has in store for me and myself and my ability to meet whatever challenges are put in front of me. Um and yeah, just excitement and also just like openness to pivoting as necessary and not being so dead set and like we talked about so task oriented on like I need this one thing. Um yeah, I think it's that and I think like I mentioned, I feel like I show up just as a human with other humans from so much more of an abundant place. Um, and right, I remember showing up wanting genuine connection, but just not feeling like I had the bandwidth to like put in the time to forge that. And now a lot more like that feels doable, that feels attainable, that feels like I have the time and the space and the mental capacity to do that.
Wow, that's so cool. I love it. It makes me think of a couple things. Like CJ and I were talking about this the other day with journeying on a medicine where it's like you almost it and this has happened in like Johns Hopkins studies with terminally ill cancer patients as well. Once you see the other side and you realize like, oh, we're all just product of this stardust thing, and we're gonna return back to whatever like collective consciousness we all came from one day. It gives you this like perspective that really allows you to be present and be like you play looser, like rather than going into a game like a lacrosse game and football game, whatever, hockey game, and you're like you're uptight and you're stingy and you're kind of like I don't want to fail, I don't want to make a mistake, and your head's down and you're kind of like risk averse and a little bit operating from a scarcity mindset. It gives you this totally different vantage point where you're like you can play reckless. Well, not reckless, but like with abandon because you're like, dude, send it. Who cares? I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna like show up how I am and do what I want and find that childlike wonder of like when I was 10 and I was so excited to just ride my skateboard or do whatever. I think VC and investing in these like emerging technologies and you know finding those things is so cool and that's what I'm going to pursue. So like you're going to find it. And I think that's like that's really encouraging to hear, man. I know CJ probably has a lot to say about that too cuz he as well like kind of that was his story too. I don't want to speak for you, Siege, but
No, yeah, I mean, I'm just dealing with outside noise right now. But
yeah,
I mean, business school students being considerate, who would have thought?
no, right.
Yeah, no, right, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's literally we had a discussion the other day. I mean, it's literally the difference of like playing super uptight, being afraid of everything, like afraid to drop the ball. You know, oh, like a pass that you've caught a million times is like I'm afraid to catch this because if I drop it, then this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. I'm gonna get benched. It's like the difference in perspective. There's that little shift of like, fuck it, dude. None of this really matters. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna try and like the joy is in the journey, right? The joy is in the journey of who you are on your life's path with, who you were on that journey with through life. We're all gonna go back to collective stardust at some point, right? Like Will said. So it's like I'm gonna try and do the thing that makes me the happiest. I'm not gonna like dive to the herd mentality and do that. And it's just so challenging though to get out of to like rip yourself out of that and go from like being kind of just constantly in your own head to like, oh wow, I'm actually like observing my own thoughts now and like I can choose to do things a different way. I don't need to just do what I've been told for my entire life. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. It,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would add on to that. Um, I think you have the I think sitting with plant medicine gives you the opportunity to kind of take on that if I had to like make it into a bumper sticker, like it's not that deep mentality
Mm.
at the end of the day, but I think again, like I'm an emotional dude. Anybody who knows me fairly well knows this. I mean, the theme of that Colorado retreat was like, yo, Alex Dolan be crying. Um, Tears of joy, of course, and like some sadness in there, but a lot of tears of joy. Um, but I think it's also understanding the stuff the stuff of life versus the stuff that makes life worth living. Um, it is like it's not that job. Promise you,
Yeah.
dude. It's not that job. It's not admission to that business school in an army context. Like it's not that it's not that selection. It's not your senior airborne wings, like whatever. And I have found myself throwing myself a lot more and receiving a lot more of like what I would say is the stuff that makes life worth living. And that can be like that's definitely relationships. Like the beauty of the inner child and how much joy I get out of like talking to my goofy nephews and hanging out with them as much as I can. I think it's like going on a walk and just like feeling the air around you. I was really fortunate to go on a trip to India the other day, and I even dropped it in the Truxtun, Colorado chat of just like finding these moments where you can stop and look around and think to yourself, like, oh my God, dude, life is perfect. Like, like this is all I need right now. Like this is it. Um, And I think, yeah, like being open to receiving those moments and being eager to find those moments and not forcing that, or like I was just talking about, like just realizing that simple, immense beauty in two what I presume to be really, really good friends, and one is blind, one can see, and like that shared experience of like one who can see sharing what she's seeing to the person who can't, and like just the intimacy and level of being in relationship to another person that's inherent in that. um I think that's so big of a piece of it. You have to maintain that. Like that's not easy. um which I mean, if if either one of y'all want to talk about integration, like obviously that's everything. We would need another like 2 hours to touch on how important integration is. But yeah.
Yeah, that's where my head just went when you started talking. I was like, "Hmm, how has your integration journey been?" Like, was it did you feel like you were immediately able to take all of the insights and downloads that you had from the ceremony and apply them to your life? Or has it been like a gradual, um, kind of spiral of integrating those lessons learned?
I think it's like kind of dependent on the theme.
Yeah.
I think in terms of sort of these realizations that I had, in terms of, I mean, like kind of the simplest and most immediate one was getting back into touch with, I mean, just how insanely fortunate and blessed I am to have the people I do in my life, and like most specifically, my fiance in my life, and like we live together in Chicago. Like that's pretty easy to just like jump right into. Um, like not easy to do well all the time now. Like of course not. Um, but in terms of like almost getting like the sets and reps in of, okay, this is what I learned. This is how I want to show up because of how I learned. Like that was definitely kind of the soonest to that I was able to, like, for lack of a better term, kind of gain traction on. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like it kind of depends in my opinion, because you're gonna get multiple things and they might kind of fall under this umbrella of a certain theme, but you're gonna get lots of different stuff for an experience. And I mean there have been a lot of things that have been difficult. Um in terms of like I would say patience has definitely been the most difficult thing.
Mm.
I definitely think that's like an aspect of the task orientation that I kind of normally take to. That's been challenging, but I think fundamentally with integration, what I have had to learn and really lean into is like at the end of the day, like the like ceremony and that afterglow of sitting with plant medicine, it's temporary and it's all
Yeah.
what you do with it and how you set out to like really make those things real in your life. And I mean, Will, you and I talked, I think a week ago at this point, maybe a little bit less. Of like at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you. Uh,
Yeah.
it would be really, really cool if we could all just like quit our jobs and do like a perma retreat. I'm game. Uh, but like that's just not the life that we live in. And it's like there's also a lot of persistence and just stick to itiveness that will be required of anybody who goes through an experience like that. And like at the end of the day, like you just have to kind of keep at it. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, that will not be my last time sitting with plant medicine. I'm sure my second integration will be just as hard, if not harder, and that's okay. And I think one really big thing that this retreat and sitting with plant medicine really gave me back was my ability to be like stressed or tired or whatever it might be and acknowledge that like, hey, like on a certain level, I'm not okay, but in the grand scheme of things, like I'm okay. Like
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
tired or I'm feeling discouraged or I'm upset or like whatever it might be and feeling that emotion and being okay with that and proceeding through life and doing the things that you need to do to regulate yourself and your emotions.
Yeah. Like a lot of distress tolerance, the
Yes.
ability to, yeah, which you already had like from growing up, but like maybe now you have like a different way of like coping with things.
Yeah, and I think it's a different way and I think it's just like such a different environment. Um and when you're like plucked out of this environment that you've become accustomed to for the last 5 in a lot of ways 9 years and like everything is kind of breakneck speed from the very jump, um it's super easy to lose touch with oneself.
Mhm.
And yeah, just being able to find that like, hey, like I'm really tired. My calendar is booked out through the week. I'm probably only gonna get like 5 hours of sleep tonight or something. But like I'll be okay. Like at the end of the day, I've got this. The universe has got me.
Yeah. And you hit on it like with what you were talking about earlier, where it's like you don't necessarily know where you're going to be a year from now. You don't know what the summer holds. You don't know what your job holds. But at the end of it all, like you're good. Like you feel at peace. And I think that's like such a cool thing. Something that I definitely felt too, where it's like I kind of know like the direction that my compass is telling me to go. So I'm just going to wake up and walk that direction every day and let the results speak for themselves. I don't care. And I think it also like we come from a world, whether it's Western society or the military academy or MBA culture, whatever it is, where people are very oriented on what is your 1 year plan? What is your 5 year plan? What is your timeline? What is your roadmap to get to where you're going? And to tell someone like, I don't know, but I'm good. It's so like counter culture, but it's awesome, right? Because like you could literally like be like jobless, like homeless, whatever, but you're like, I'm good because my nervous system is regulated. I know that my partner loves me. I know my place in the world. I know myself and I know the value that I bring to what I do. And it's like coming from like living life and showing up in this matrix that we live in with that type of attitude and that type of mentality is like the secret sauce. Like you're gonna get you just unlock the doors to whatever you want to do because you have just like a different mentality. It's so cool to hear that you like embrace that.
CJ, I think you might be muted. I don't know if you wanted to see.
No, yeah, I wasn't saying. I was just like, yeah, it's like a superpower. Being able to
Yeah.
look like that is literally like a superpower, and that's, I mean, what it's all about is like it doesn't matter what, as long as you are connected to your like your true north out on your and you're walking that azimuth. You're grounded in yourself. You're loved and supported in your relationships. It's all good. We just need
Yeah.
to, it really is. I mean, like, look at what we've accomplished in this life already, and we've been doing it from a place of, you know, desperation and lack and anxious energy, and it's like, now look what we can do now that we have these almost, almost superpowers, right? To use that analogy again, it's like, wow, I'm excited to see what we can do moving forward as a community, as more and more people start to realize that like their superpowers within them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like finding, also just allowing yourself to be excited and to find yourself in a place where you can reframe that as like, yeah, it's uncertainty, but it's pretty exciting. Like,
It's liberation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's liberating and just like falling in love with whatever like process sounds a little bit overly clinical with like with whatever life journey you're on. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really exciting. That's great.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, we're getting close to the end, but one thing that I love to ask is like, what's a little nugget of wisdom that you would tell yourself if you could go back in time, like to you as a cadet or you as a new second lieutenant or pick your time, you as a 3-year-old, you as a 10-year-old kid, like if you could go back in time, like what would you say? What would you tell yourself?
There are like so many iterations of myself that I look back on and I want to like shake my fist at. Oh man. I would say 20 late 2012. I was like a freshman in high school. Um and I would tell myself it is okay to want a lot out of life. Um and to stand alone in that. I think, right, I mean, I was 15 at the time. Yeah, I was 15 at the time. Um, and definitely was like very ambitious and like did want a lot out of my own life and was like really starting to apply that. Um, but yeah, I think that reminder would have done me a lot of good. Um, yeah, to just be okay with like not just doing that, but like feeling really, really good about that. And I mean, it's kind of like we talked about this, like it's one thing to stand alone and be okay. It's another thing to stand alone or apart from a crowd and feel really, really confident in that.
Beautiful.
That's so true. That's so well
Yeah.
said. Last question. We at what do you think if you what would you tell someone that is considering coming to their first plant medicine retreat. It's
Mm,
on that edge.
mm.
One of your classmates or any
Yeah. That's a much easier one. Um, you I think like it's kind of twofold. Number one, you don't need to be in crisis to step into a relationship with plant medicine. Um, I know those are the stories that we hear a lot about how specifically people in the veteran community find plant medicine, and like that is beautiful and that's amazing. That's inspiring. If you're watching this, watching Waves in War, amazing story, really, really inspired me. Um, but yeah, you don't need like a mental health hospitalization. You don't need to have yeah, like I said, you don't need to be in crisis to step into that. And I think number two, you as somebody who did a very passably normal 5 years in the military, you don't have to have like a crazy resume of X number of deployments. I traded fire with an enemy. I was concussed like XYZ. You don't need to be that either to be able to experience something like this. It's for anyone. I mean, I would liken it to if you like were a high school kid and you want to be really good at your sport if you played a sport, which like all restless high school boys are like that. Um, you wouldn't have batted an eye at like some really weird training modality to like give yourself that little extra edge. Um,
mm,
I remember I remember in high school, I don't know if y'all remember this, but like the weird like oxygen deprivation masks or whatever, like it was like the
yeah.
Bane thing. I remember seeing that when I was in high school and like, yes, like that's it. That's what's gonna get me like a little bit better, get a little bit faster if I just train with that. Um, right? Like, and if we take that over to plant medicine, and like at the end of the day, the goal is to just like not necessarily from a performance perspective, but I think just from a living life perspective, being a better human
Human.
being and like citizen of the human race. And like that can be through showing up as a partner, a spouse, a brother, sister, mother, son, whatever. Um, like I can tell you right now, it gave me an extra edge and all of those things. Um, and yeah, it's no different than that. So like, why would you not want to give yourself that extra edge of just having a much more fulfilling, purposeful human experience?
Well said, man. Well said.
Well, very
We
well
always
said.
say you like even if you came and you didn't even take any medicine, coming for a retreat with Truxtun is pretty life changing because it's a technology detox. You're not on your phone. You're journaling. You're introspecting. You're in like a fellowship with other veterans, other humans. Like so much of us, like when we transition out of the military, it's like you kind of lose that like that platoon, you lose that tight knit, that squad, like, you don't have that same camaraderie with your classmates necessarily or the people where you work at, and so it's really cool to, like, step back into that with people who are also asking the existential questions and trying to better themselves and, like, just be a better human, but not only survive, but thrive and do better, and I remember, like, just crying by the bonfire with CJ one retreat, and he was just telling me his own personal story of, like, the hardships that he went through as a lieutenant, and then, like, later when he was getting his MBA, and, like, it was like that like, I don't even really remember much of the rest of the retreat, but that night by the bonfire was, like, unforgettable for me, and that wasn't even a plant medicine thing. It was just humans being humans, and So yeah, I hear what you say, man. Like, really appreciate you like sharing your life story with us and with the world, and I'm really excited to see where it takes you. And dude, just so grateful for you and your friendship, and really proud of you, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. I'm excited to see you on the next one.
Absolutely.
yeah.